I'm here with Sam Levan, who's the CEO of MadKudu. And I wanted to chat with him about signal-based selling because one, I feel like I've been seeing versions of it on LinkedIn, whether it's Chris Walker talking about signal-based selling or Adam Robinson talking about inbound-led outbound, different versions upon the same similar idea, I would say. And Sam, from the looks of it, you guys are really embedded in this trend, I would say. I saw that you guys launched a co-pilot for, I think, Salesforce a month and a half ago that allows people to do signal-based selling, to implement signals and data into their sales and go-to-market motion. So that's why I wanted to have you here. Sam, is that roughly accurate? And then feel free to do a little intro on your side and any context people should know about you and MadKudu.
Yeah, glad to be here. And I think you did pretty well. And I look forward to discussion on signal-based selling, what that means, why now, is this new or not? But yeah, the accent on my side is from France. I actually live in California for almost 15 years, and I've been in the world of data, operations, demand gen, and sales for the past 15 years. So I've seen quite a few trends go up and down and a few hype cycles for sure.
Awesome. Cool. So what's been the evolution for MadKudu, let's say, because you guys have been around for a while. You're not startup that launched a month and a half ago. So how do you guys get into this space? Have you been embedded in there from the beginning, or have you guys pivoted into this direction?
Yeah, no, it's interesting how I think in the go-to-market team, we kind of rename things that have been happening for a long time, like ABM, right? Nothing really new there. It was putting a name on some of the best practices. PLG, I mean, the invention of product-led growth is not new, but again, OpenView did a very good job at putting a name on it. And for the work that we've done, signal-based selling, I think is doing the right type of prospecting, the right type of activities on going after lead and accounts. So on that one, I would say we've been doing something very similar for a few years, but now I think there's a change in how the market works, and it's great to have a name that everybody can rally around.
Cool. All right, so let's maybe start. A good starting point is definition. So how would you define today what signal-based selling is?
The easiest way I think to talk about it is simply that any outreach that sellers do should have some signals to back it up. So you know when is the right time to go after an account. You need to have a reason to engage an account, and you need to use those signals to make it personal and relevant to the customer. Those are the two simple things. I'm almost ashamed to share that, but this is the opposite of bulk cold emailing, bulk cold prospecting, where take 10,000 accounts, get some contacts on it, put the phone numbers, and just like send an email, playing the number game. Yeah.
Right. And so from your perspective, why now? Because like intent data has been around for a while. Probably a lot of people would argue that they've already been doing that for a long time, whether it's like someone downloaded our ebook and that's the intent signal and that's what makes our SDRs go outbound. So like what's different and why now? And yeah.
I think that one is more constraint because of the buyers. I think it's pretty clear if you look at the latest number that's outbound has been declining in conversion rate to a point where it's almost like many companies say it's not working anymore, but it's not true. It's not working for the brute cold outbound. So I think the market is just telling us that this is not working because you and I think everybody in this call, we all get like 30 emails a day with those quick question emails, right? Like quick questions. Hi, Sam, I see you are job title at company. And then you have like social proof and ask for a meeting. That playbook has stopped working. So there need to be something that's different. And you're right that I think a lot of people have thought about signal-based selling and have done part of it, but the execution and I think the adoption of that, I don't think is actually there. It's like ABM. Everybody have been talking about it for a long time, but doing ABM right, I think is very hard. So it's less a theory, but it's more the practice of it.
Would you consider if a company, which I would say most B2B companies at this point do, running lead gen ads, someone downloads your checklist or ebook, and then an SDR reaches out because they got an email from that download? Is that signal-based selling in your mind or not?
I mean, it's cool run, right? You do a webinar, you actually do something with it, but to make it work, it's actually like the combination of a few signals that make that outreach relevant. So you mentioned like the webinar. You have a webinar. Are you following up with webinar leads, right? Before you do that, do you know what's qualified, what's not? Because on a webinar, you have a lot of those leads that are not qualified. And then when you do the outreach, are you using the webinar topics, but also the context you have beyond the webinar? Because that leads who came to your webinar that's not their first interaction with you for sure, right? Like nobody just where you go straight to webinar. So are you using the other signals to make that outreach relevant? And I would say what's working today that we see with our customers and for ourselves is really when you combine a few signals together for that outreach. So the webinar play is one thing, is because people going to webinar are more into education, but yeah, that would fall into signal-based selling.
What would you say? I mean, we're diving into stuff right away. What would you say? And let's make this specific, because I think most of the audience here will be B2B SaaS and will be, let's say early stage to growth stage. So they between, let's say up to 10 million in ARR, I would say is most of the audience of this, and selling into, whether you're selling into SMB or mid-market or even enterprise, what do you see is some of the biggest mistakes that people make when they try to do outreach based on some intent data or signals? And how would you move that to a more sophisticated process?
Yeah, and by the way, I have a pet peeve on the word sophisticated. So I try not to use this because most of the time, like getting back to the basic is what works. So
right.
It's really more going back to the basic stuff, right? And I think the biggest mistake is pretty clear. It's misunderstanding what's intent. You mentioned webinar. I don't think it's a strong intent unless there are other signals that indicate someone is in market. The one that I think Adam has been talking a lot for retention has been, for example, also keyword, like the dark funnel, the keyword intent. When you have someone at Accenture, like apparently having a surge on a topic, I mean, do we really have someone at Accenture in market? And I think there've been studies, like one from Stanford, for example, like A/B tested that piece, where we've seen no correlation between that type of intent and actually someone booking a meeting and creating pipeline. So I think there is a lot of marketers and sellers, especially sellers, who have been burned by those signals that are pretending showing that the company is in market, and then you reach out and you realize that they are not more in market than any other company. So be very mindful about what signals you're using. And there are some very basic plays that actually works. They are not rocket science. Like everybody should be doing it, but I think very few companies are actually doing it on a consistent basis.
What are some of those that come to mind?
All right, I have a long list, probably like 30 or more, but to take just one or two, one that's so easy, reactivation of lost opportunity. What most companies do is like, okay, Q1 finished. So for a lot of companies, like we're 2 days in a new quarter, and we're like, okay, open the lost opportunity you had from 6 months ago, create a list, and then just email all your past champions at those opportunities to see if they are in market again. Most of the companies that you talked to 6 months ago, they are not in market again right now. So you just like basically spammed everywhere. You're probably going to get 2 or 3 opportunities like out of it, but it's a lot of waste and unnecessary touches. The other way to go on reactivation of lost opportunity is every single day you look at who's going on your website. You can use retention, for example, to de-anonymize the traffic you have on your website. When you find that one of your lost opportunity is on your website, you automatically create an action for the seller to engage the past champion. And the outreach is not just, hey, I was thinking about you. We talked 6 months ago. What's up? It's, hey, we talked 6 months ago. I've seen that your team or yourself were looking at those pages on our website. I'm wondering if you're looking into this problem again. And now that type of outreach, every single day you're sending emails and you're basically reaching out to your prospect exactly at the right time, exactly the right person in a way that's very clear for them what the value add is. So very simple play, but it's a combination of the anonymization of traffic, so retention, as well as lost opportunity. So a combination of 2 signals.
And so the signal is they came to the website, they're on ICP, and then I'm personalizing it by referencing prior history I have with them, because I can see, okay, we already talked with this account 6 months ago, and here's how the conversation went. What are some other obvious, simple playbooks?
Yeah, so that one is very simple and scaling. I think what some great sellers are doing. We talk about intent, and there is like the dark intent, the intent that you don't really know where it's happening. But most of your buyers are on LinkedIn for I think many of our customers. And one that's very simple is you look at who of your target accounts are engaging in the post of your competitors. And by looking at their technographics data, you know they are not yet their competitors. So you have this audience of people who are like your perfect buyer, they haven't bought your competitor and they're engaging with a competitor, there is something happening there. So now you can reach out to that specific person because you know the person who's been engaging. You can even mention like the post that they've been interacting with and ask what's right now is top of mind for those conversations.
One of the things that you guys can do, I've been looking for the solution. I've not found it yet. Talked with a bunch of providers and they can't do it yet, which is I do a lot of things on LinkedIn and we do this for customers. I want to get a view where I can see who engaged with my content, filter that based on LinkedIn's native filter. So like job title, company size, industry, and then get a scoring number of like, here's a CEO of a B2B SaaS company who liked 5 of your posts and commented on 2 in the last 30 days, and they get a score of this. So maybe it's time to go outbound to them. Right now, I haven't seen this done because you basically need to scrape LinkedIn, I think, to get all that data. And then is that something that is possible in today's world already?
Yeah.
And is this
100%. It's pretty crazy, right? That it's not a common practice already. And it's tying like the engagement that you have on LinkedIn and you have access to it, right? You have it and then tying it back to some scoring, plus tying it back to even the other data that you have, right? Like those people are not just on LinkedIn. They might have been actually joining one of those webinars or have been to your website, or you can get more signals on that.
What is your point of view? And this is something that I struggle with is if someone has some, let's say, intent data or signal that is based on in your ecosystem, right? So like they attended your webinar, they looked at your pricing page, they engaged with your LinkedIn content, but they haven't come inbound yet. They haven't booked the demo, but they fit your ICP. What's my reasoning to go outbound to them? Because I'm almost thinking, well, they clearly know about us. So if they wanted to talk to us, they would have come inbound. But the reason why they looked at pricing page, engaged with my content, and attended the webinar and did not come inbound is because they decided that they don't want to work with us. So why should I now use that signal to go outbound rather than just wait for them to come inbound?
Yeah. And that we haven't done, but the way you're mentioning it, that's almost like a new play that we should all have. When you consolidate those signals, you can really see like who is extremely engaged with you, right? You need to make sure as well they are ICP, because maybe like they're super engaged, but they will never buy from you because they're the wrong profile. So you have the answer there. But for the people who are your perfect ICP, so engaged and not buying, I would reach out and say, hey, I've seen that you've been on the webinar, you've been on our website, pricing page, and all the things that you've talked about, but you haven't, decided to engage with us. Just curious about it. That's an example of what you can do. That's very specific there.
Oh, I like that. It's changing the framing instead of trying to pitch. It's being like, why have you not booked the demo yet?
Yeah, it was
or
curiosity,
like,
and you show about those, right? Yeah, you know them very well. Yeah.
Right. All right. Will Martin on LinkedIn said, I think this was based on the ebooks that we talked about. He said it is signal based outselling, just not with the right signal. I think there is a lot going on where people misconstrue signals. So in your mind, what is a good signal versus a bad signal? Like what's a signal that you should actually go outbound, and what's a signal that something happened, but that doesn't mean you should do anything about it?
Yeah. That depends. I think people hate those answers, but it depends. And one thing a bit of a pet peeve, I think, in my world is we often talk about the ROI of marketing, and attribution has been something that's been going on for the past 20 years with so much work and thinking and energy spent on it, if not money. When we think of the ROI of data, and I just did like a panel like a few weeks ago, and I asked 10 CMOs and CROs, what signals are they leveraging today? What providers are they using? And then what's the ROI of those signals and providers? Everybody could tell like what signal they're using, what providers they have, but nobody is actually like measuring the ROI of data and the ROI of those signals. So on that one, very simple, right? I think every company, every go-to-market team should be able to tell, okay, I buy G2 data. That's a signal. Like, who are the people looking at my competition on G2? I should see how many of those, let's say, search signals cover my pipeline. Because sometimes, for example, G2, what we find is a pretty good signal, but it covers a very small part of the pipeline. But you can tell people who look at G2 before have an increased conversion rate of, let's say, 20% or 50%. That gives you an idea that it is a signal that matters, but it's covering, 5% or 2% of the pipeline created. So 98% or 95% of my pipeline created did not see a signal on G2. So having that measure, I think, is very helpful to understand what are the core signals for your business. But we work only with B2B software companies. And I would say the first party and second party data is pretty amazing in terms of coverage and conversions. So web, like this web traffic, great source of intent. Like you have so many people going to see your site and looking, not only do they go to your site, do they spend time on your site, what pages are they looking at? So when you look at intent, going a bit beyond like the web visits, great source. LinkedIn is a great one. The Champify user gems, like the champions moving to different company, very, very good in terms of conversions, but often pretty small in terms of coverage. So that's the way I think I'm really working with our customers, is think of all the signals you have available and then just look at what correlates to pipeline or not.
For website visitors, do you have any best practice on when you should go outbound? Like in the sense of any ICP who visits your website once, should you go outbound? Should you wait until they come back at least a second time? Should you wait until they look at pricing page and then you go outbound? Like what's the best practice here, or what would you recommend?
Yeah. So I think it also depends on, so I have a lot of it depends, but the TLDR, it's depends of sales capacity and the size of the target account list and are you mid-market or enterprise. So if you are like almost B2C or VSMB, I mean, you can play a bit of a volume game there, where we've seen a lot of customers with success where you just automate, someone goes to your website, it's VSMB, so finding the persona in the account is very easy because there aren't that many people in the company. So identifying who is the person is easy. And that's a reason good enough to reach out. It's mostly automated, so the cost of engaging is pretty small. And, it's better than reaching out randomly, right? Now, if you sell to more enterprise, that play is much harder. And that's where having multiple visits, looking at what pages are being looked at and finding the right person at the account works better, especially in combination of different signals. So that's going to be a bit of, it depends on the market you serve.
Okay, so the smaller the accounts and the higher volume of the sales cycle you do, the lower the bar, let's say. So if I'm selling to SMB and high volume, like I can go outbound if they just hit my website once. If I'm selling low volume, big enterprise deals, I want to see a little bit more before I go outbound. Also, it's just going to become harder unless I have that specific person from something like retention.com. If I only know the account visited my website, it's just going to be a lot more of a search. Okay.
Exactly. You're going to put more effort into the outreach and personalization. So that's where you set a threshold on the engagement level that's higher for enterprise.
Where would you say go-to-market teams mostly go wrong when they try to implement the signal-based selling approach?
Too often, I feel we spend time like we talk a lot about intent and signals, and we buy so many tools. We buy G2, 6sense, when we set retention on our site. We buy all those different tools instead of focusing on sales enablement and playbooks. So it's better to start with take a few plays, and I mentioned like 2, but we have like maybe 5 plays that everybody should be doing. Put it in the hand of your sellers, have them book meetings and create pipeline. And then you expand. But you drive that change from the seller's perspective, from the play perspective, not from the intent perspective. Really start from the customer, think of the plays, and then what data do we need for that?
Specifically, what data sources or intent signals would you say are the most important to pay attention to? If someone would be now trying to set up a process and, they could sign up for retention.com, Amplify, I don't know, be looking at this and that, but what are the highest priorities on that list that you should be tracking?
Yeah, I think it depends a little bit as well if you're inbound PLG. So we're looking really at the low-hanging fruit. On my side, I think the one I would recommend if you have more of so if you don't have PLG, is simply like the activities you have on your website, so the anonymized data. And most people already have those data. That I would start there. Social data is number 2. That's why I was mentioning that play where this is very powerful. And then I would go into more fancy data sets. Champify was the number 3, and number 4, Champify user gem. There are quite a few players in the space. And then number 4, I would go more into like the competitive intent that the company provides. But that's really number 4. And that's often what people actually start with, right? There's too many, like when I ask people, what do you have? They all have like some dark intent, but not the basic stuff. But if you have, maybe I'll drop a quick note there, because even on that side, we work with amazing customers, very, very smart people. And one of the play that not everybody has in a consistent way is when you approach the limit of your plans, and especially going to an enterprise plan, do your sellers know about it? That's a very simple play. I hope I'm not throwing some shade, but Gong, for example, is a fantastic customer of ours, super smart team, one of the best team I've worked with. And the other day I was looking at Gong Engage. So you have like, we use Gong, we love the recording, forecasting. I go in Gong Engage, I see like, it just like the feature was not activated for us. I actually go click on it, go like learn about it, and nobody is reaching out to me. I mean, I clearly am the CEO of a company looking at, I'm in Gong, I'm using this feature immediately, right? My account manager should reach out and say, Sam, it looks like you're having some interest on Gong Engage. I see you like learning about it. What are you thinking about, right? So very simple things like that. When you have a PLG motion, if you do it in a consistent way, it just works amazing.
So we're gonna forward this video to Gong and let them know that they have some leaky buckets there. And there is there a tool? Is that what MadKudu could do, or what tool would you exist there to track these types of product uses?
Yeah, that's part of, I mean, I'm not here to talk about MadKudu, but clearly we make that easy. So we would integrate with like Snowflake or whatever, like product usage database people have. And then we connect that signal with other signal as well to make it easy for sellers to take action on that.
Oh, we got some comments here on the LinkedIn Live. Will Martin says, I'm asking this to Chris Walker later this month, and I'm afraid he'll say it depends too. He mentions pricing request as one of the signals with high lead to win ratio, but that seems too obvious to me. Not sure what the question is here. Will Alano says, if someone is reposting or leaving a comment on a LinkedIn post, that is well worth a BDR reaching out. Yeah, I don't know if something exists in the SMB space, but I'm leaving so much on the table because I just can't keep up with people engaging on my content. And like, I'm trying to click on who liked or commented on my post, and then it only shows you the name of the person and their tagline. And their tagline sometimes it's like, I help
the company, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know if you're a consultant or a coach or a CEO or a BDR until I click on your profile. And so it's just, there's so much that's not being like properly tracked and stuff. So yeah, I think that needs to.
Yeah.
So, okay, most important signals we talked about. What are some of the results that, might be expectable if you're switching your outbound from a pure cold outbound approach, downloading a list on Zoom Info and then going outbound versus leveraging a signal-based approach?
I think it's pretty phenomenal. And I think everybody talks about AI and how it's going to change everything. And everybody's bored to death about those conversations, but I am extremely excited about what's coming up there. It's just insane. I think we barely understand like what's coming up. We overhype how fast it's going to happen, but we underhype how powerful and how different things are going to be. So I'm in that camp. And in terms of results, why I'm sharing it now is a lot of people now are starting to think about the 10x sellers. Like, East today have like a quota of a million a year. And SDR, for example, like 12 meetings, like 10 qualified meetings held a month, or like 20 qualified meetings held a month. We have sellers now like having 90 meetings held a month using those plays. So like Flor, for example, at Lucid is a customer. Has beaten like the record of meetings booked of the entire company since the start of the company by using signal-based prospecting. So pretty insane when you put all those plays together and activate them. It's not rocket science, but you need the discipline and the desire, I think, to make those changes. And I would say like not everybody is ready to make those changes. I'm surprised that people are not just jumping on it more.
Do you have more details on that specific case? What you mentioned, you said Lucid software, the
Lucid
company.
Chart, yeah.
Do you know what exactly that seller implemented that broker?
Of course.
So what was going on there?
So Lucid has a fantastic like product, and they have a lot of sign-up and activities. And so they have more like a PLG. So Floor is more using a PLG product growth plays on the signals. Some of the plays are very straightforward, consolidation of accounts. So you have multiple people in a company signing up for a product, using a product. How do you understand? So which account have these multiple users? But then you need to identify the right person to talk to, because the people who sign up for the product are not the people who you will consolidate those accounts with. So one of the plays that she's using and having a lot of success with is identifying accounts with a lot of activities and users, and then finding who is the right buyer in that account reaching out with an example of the people that are leveraging the product and the benefits of upgrading to a larger account. So that's very simple play that she had a lot of success with. And again, everybody should be doing. I think Superhuman now is starting to do that as well. And if you have a product like Growth Motions, I mean, there's no reason why your team have that up and running consistently.
And why are companies not having that? Is it literally just a data problem that they don't have the right infrastructure to be able to see that data? Or did just no one yet have the idea that, hey, if we have 7 users at HubSpot using our product, maybe we should go outbound to the head of something at HubSpot and say, hey, how about you buy a license for your whole team or something like that? Like, where's the bottleneck? Why is not
operationally difficult? I think it's pretty insane and frustrating because none of what we talked about is new or mind-blowing in terms of why we should not do that. But getting this implemented at scale in companies is extremely hard. I mean, most companies today, they even struggle to understand, like literally, I won't give names, but beautiful companies, super smart people. And the sales team, most of the accounts they get, they have to manually check if they are already customers or if they are worked by another team. Like, how can we have that, like, why is it solved, right? Okay. How are we tracking, like, what are the meetings that have been, like, disposition of meetings, right? Still a problem today. So I think there are a lot of operational issues that prevents a lot of companies from taking the data that they have and actually, like, making it easy for sellers to act on. And literally, like, when we look at what companies are doing, sellers have to go to 12 different steps. They have, like, the BDR manager creating a spreadsheet with, like, data that they pull, like you mentioned LinkedIn, right? You have the data, you can actually get it. So some people use Phantom Buster, scrape the LinkedIn that you're describing, put it in a Google Sheet, then, like, do an export of their Salesforce to understand what's a customer, what's not qualified, and create a list, and then every single Monday to their sellers, right? So the operationalization of that, I think, is the hard piece. That's why, like, I mean, sellers are smart. Everybody wants that, but too many steps.
So a lot of this comes down to basically RevOps. And do you feel like that is a tool problem, meaning we just have too many tools and it's too fragmented, and we have like Gong and we have Salesforce and we have HubSpot something else, and then we have, or is it a know-how problem and we just don't have the right expertise within the company to connect them properly? Like, is this going to change anytime soon?
I'll blame the vendors on that one, because I think a lot of VCs are telling every company, you need to be the OS for, like, the go-to-market team. People need to log in the morning and log off, in the evening. And so everybody, like, is creating, like, a silo of signals and plays. So now you have 6QL in one side, CQL for the chat, you have MQLs on inbound, you have PQLs, so all those different tools, like, are siloing their data and siloing the plays that you run on it. So that's my take on that, where we've created a stack that was not built to, like, work well together. And that makes, like, the work of RevOps very difficult.
And what's the
take the
solution
LinkedIn. Yeah, and to be super concrete, right? Even like we talked about Champify, we talk about retention. Retention has a great feature where everybody going on your website, now it sends you a Slack message with a lead, right? But that lead, is it a customer? Is it, because most of them will be customers? Right. Is it a qualified account, right? What has this lead done, right? In 6sense or G2 and the rest. So that's where we have all those silos that operationally are difficult. And in terms of solution, I think on that one, that's what we are working on at MadKudu. So that's a bit of a prompt. We're really, like, collecting those different signals, bringing it in one place and creating one place for sellers to every morning go and say, what do I need to do? So there is no friction at all to do those plays.
I see.
And
so
if you don't do it in MadKudu,
So is the right way to think about MadKudu similar to, like, Clay? There's companies who pull in data from different providers, and instead of having, like, Zoom Info and Clearbit, and, like, they connect with all of these and then they pull the data to give you one view of all of it. Is that similar for what you guys are doing?
Yeah, I love Clay. We use Clay at MadKudu as well. So they really, like, make it easier to, like, collect demographics data from different providers. They focus on the who you should go after. We focus on the when and the leveraging the activities, so websites, like LinkedIn activities, those kind of things. So with the part about, okay, you have the who, now, like, when do you engage? What do you say? And how do you make that UI for sellers? Like, Clay for growth people to build those lists. And then we take those lists and now, like, give it to sellers.
So the next level tool will integrate with Clay and MadKudu and give you yet another user interface that you can, and then that connects to all of the other ones. Is that Is that
No,
consolidation that's happening in
we're
SaaS?
already we're already integrating Clay, and the idea is I think that tools also work better together. Like we've one of the strategy on our side has been to basically like make MadKudu available wherever people work. So we're not a login that people don't log into MadKudu. They're if you're in Salesforce, you see me in Salesforce. You are in Gong and you are in Salesforce Outreach. You see us there. You're on LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Great. Like I think like this fight about being the login is something that we as vendors need to stop obsessing about.
Interesting. I like that. You mentioned AI. What do you think? And you mentioned that you think AI is going to majorly change how we go into market. I feel like there's a lot of just bullshit use of AI for like icebreakers, and they're all so bad. And so what do you, in your opinion, what do you see are the real potentials for AI, and what are the fake potentials for AI where people think there's some efficiency gain, but really it's just creating garbage icebreakers for you?
Yeah, no, I'm in this camp of not using AI actually for copy generation. And the framework, like the way I've been thinking about it is what's the cost of error and how repetitive is the work. And where AI is amazing is when there is a lot of repetitive work, and where the cost of error is low. That's really where AI is fantastic. And in a weird way, I don't know why we often think of AI as the customer-facing interface, where the cost of error is very high, right? You write the wrong email, that sucks for your brand. Like everybody has opinion about your website and brand, and you're okay to have like an AI like generating messages for your customers. But where AI is amazing is automating the work that's boring for people. So for example, like the research work, like researching a company, go on the website, find out, for example, like what, I don't know, you sell to e-commerce, you want to understand what type of product they sell. I mean, an AI is amazing to say, like, go to this prospect site, find what product they sell, and enrich this thing in my CRM. So enrichment is one of the examples where I think like the Zoom Infos of the world and like the big enrichment providers, they better jump in that train, because AI is going to automate this like repetitive work very, very much. And the quality is going to be much better than what we have today, where even like I know a lot of customers not happy with the quality of the enrichment they buy at a good price. And that's an example of back-end work. So the rule of thumb for me is like, take what an intern would do, and imagine you have 1,000 free interns. What work would you give them? Would you put them in front of a customer? No. Like even SDRs, we need to train. It takes a lot of time to ramp. But would you have them do research? Absolutely.
So have your AI do the intern's work, and then do you see that the kind of roadmap of AI is to kind of go through the ranks, let's say, and start doing the things that maybe a junior manager would do, and then eventually the things that a senior manager does, and then eventually what your directors do?
Yes, yeah. And I think it's going to be a lot of the task first automated. I know there are some companies going straight to the full driving. Hey, we're going to automate the full SDR overnight. I'm going to automate like the full function. If we look at what happened for self-driving cars, it's more about, okay, automate driving on a highway by just like adjusting your speed based on the car in front of you, right? That we can have today. People are buying product to solve problem today, not to buy product to solve a problem in 5 years. I don't know if you followed the saga with human pin, like you're not in the, there is a AI product that's is supposed to replace your phone. And as a pin, right?
The shitty product everyone shat on.
Yeah, that's hard, but I think that's a bit where the vision is fantastic, but we're not there yet, right? So I think for AI in companies, that we're going to burst, like a lot of vendors are going to go to market leaders by making those big promises, and it's not ready yet. But I think AI automating some of the boring work that we all have to do. I mean, the productivity you can get is just exceptional. Like we use Descript at MadKudu, amazing, right? Before you had to like edit videos and like one by one things. Edit your text, off it goes. The productivity 10x. Are we replacing like a content marketer or digital marketer? No, but we are like removing a big chunk of the work, 100%.
Where do you feel like the competitive advantage for companies will sit as, we go from, okay, maybe the early adopters currently have some competitive advantage by adopting these AI tools a little bit faster than the rest, but very soon everyone's going to be using all of them, and it's going to be commonplace that everyone's using them. Where do you feel like the competitive advantage will sit then, when it's normal for everyone to leverage AI to scrape website and figure out what's the product that they're selling?
Yeah, I'll disagree with you just a little bit on that one, on how fast people adopt change. If you look at digital transformation, I'm an old guy, but I've heard about digital transformation for the past 20 years. And still like now we're barely coming out of it, right? Digital transformation, like going from paper to computers, right? And I think for AI, I mean, just one of my
Tell that to the German
friend was telling me
government.
like he wasn't see it.
They don't want none of that.
So AI, I feel is the same. Like I think training ourselves and our teams on like very practical use cases give you an edge that's going back to the basic that will make a big difference.
But Sam, what do you feel like we or people should cover or think about when they think about signal-based selling that we haven't covered here? Like what's maybe an obvious thing that is overlooked?
I would say on that one, like keeping it very simple. I think we kind of hammered that message, but if there is one thing I would take home is looking, and on our website, we have some plays, happy to share also as resources, but a list of plays that, you should be running. Pick one that you're not doing today. Don't even tell the team you want to do signal-based selling. It's just like, bringing big words that nobody cares about. Just implementing one, show success, and then scale from there. People have already a lot of data. They don't need to buy more data. They have already plenty of it. So look at what you already have and just implement it end to end, have a win, and then expand from there.
Where do I see the different playbooks on your website? Because I think that's an interesting resource.
Yeah, you can follow up on that one and send it over.
Okay. So we'll drop that in the thing when it goes live. Any other favorite playbooks? Maybe not the most effective ones that everyone should be running because they're the most simple and straightforward, but maybe any like creative ones that come to mind that you've seen a team implement where you were like, oh, that's an interesting way to approach it.
Yeah, we are by the way compiling a lot of the playbooks. Even our customers are thinking about the one that's pretty cool for enterprise is the 10K filings. So that's when it's using AI, where you can, the public company publish their filings. You describe what their priorities are. It's very easy to AI scan the filings, find pain points that are relevant to your companies. And now if you combine that with some of the activities, that started some great conversations with executives specifically. So that's a little play that's easy to implement. It's free, like you can use Bard and different tools for that. And it shows that what you're working on is aligned with the company's priorities.
Any other ones that come to mind?
Yeah, let's see. Oops, there are some questions there, but the rip and replace, that one is very basic, but a lot of success where the competitor take out, where you can know when someone bought a tool and then 3 months before the renewal, you send an email 3 months before to the right person saying, hey, a lot of companies use this, have struggled with that. And that's why, they come to us. Is it a problem that you have? So that one's a bit of a sneaky one, but it works pretty well.
That's very sneaky. I think the CEO of Metadata shared that one of the playbooks that they're running is that based on G2 data, they can see when someone looks at a competitor of theirs, and then they send a comparison guide basically saying, hey, by the way, here's a comparison guide for ABM platforms. And, obviously the one that they happen to be looking at is in there, but they are in there too. And so they win deals off of that, basically swooping in at the last minute and kind of stealing some of that there. Cool. Let's see. If you guys have any questions, now is your chance. Otherwise, we will be wrapping things up now. What do you feel like? Is this something that just every company should do? Or is there a certain stage at which it really only makes sense to pay attention to this and do this once you have a certain amount of traction? Or is this just a no-brainer for every company?
Well, if you really if you're just getting started, I think going to the cold call because you don't have yet traffic on your website or any brand, and that makes sense to just go like the typical, zoom in for playbook, buy a list and go after that. But as soon as you have like your website with at least 2,000 visitors a month, brainer.
I think we're not quite there yet. I think we're at like 1,000 visitors, so I still need to do some work. Cool. Anything you feel like we should have covered that we didn't cover?
All good.
Cool. All right, guys. So we're going to be wrapping this up now. This recording, if you joined later, I know a couple of people joined like 10 minutes in. If you want to watch the full thing from the beginning, this will go out on our YouTube and Spotify. And we do this roughly every week about all kinds of things in go-to-market and B2B SaaS. Sam, thank you so much for your time. Looking forward to seeing what you guys build out here and how signal-based selling or inbound-led outbound or whatever term people end up, settling on for this approach. But thank you so much for your time and for being on here.
You bet. Good to see everyone.